Hello and welcome to this video. Today we're going to be talking about grammar translation in the direct method. First of all, I'm going to start with the grammar translation. That is basically, as its name says, that is the grammar translation. Grammar translation is basically translate everything from the foreign language to the mother tongue. And here in Mexico is a really common method used primarily in public schools because some private schools tend to use another methods that are more effectively than grammar translation method. What happens with this method? Here in Mexico is really common that when students are studying with this method, it's really common that they want to translate everything. And that's okay, but teachers must teach them how to interpret the utterances when they are translating. You can translate literally from English to Spanish because sometimes it hasn't sense. Sometimes the specific words that teacher gave to students to translate a word, they want to translate them the same. And that's not correct because sometimes the utterances, the sentences has no meaning, has no coherence. And that's my point of view of this method, of this technique, this approach. Is really helpful to translate every single word. But when you're going to translate a text or, how can I say, a song, stuff like that, it doesn't work at all because students doesn't know how to give that interpretation to the utterances, sentences. And for example, if you ask your students to translate a poem, they will translate them in really literally. They won't give that interpretation it needs. So for me, this method is okay, but just in some cases. If you're going to teach with this method, you also have to teach your students to give the correct interpretation in the moment that you're going to translate a paragraph, a poem, a song, and stuff like that. That's it for me. Now my partner Dulce is going to talk about the direct method.
The direct method. Why is it called direct? It is called direct because it goes right into the point, which means that the teacher uses the second language, which is the one that we are trying to teach, right? That in this case is English. For example, we're trying to teach English, okay? And our students speak Spanish. We are going to speak English. If we can, we're going to speak it 100%. Why? Because if we speak the language all the time, it is more common for the student to be able to identify new words. This means that if we use the language, the student has to learn that language to be able to understand. Okay? In this case, we as teachers has to come up with new activities and new methods of learning and teaching. We all have different types of students, meaning that all these students have different ways of learning. We cannot have one student on this side and another one the other side and teach them the same thing. Yes, we might have the opportunity to have two students with the same type of learning, but sometimes we might not. So we have to be prepared for the different types of teaching that we are going to use. In the direct method, we use the language directly. I'm going to use the English directly. Why? Because I'm trying to make the student learn the language. I'm not going to go with any translation with the student. Why? Because if I translate everything to the student, they're not going to get the knowledge, and I want them to learn the language. So this means that I'm going to speak English all the time, because if I translate every single word, what do you think the students are going to do? They're not going to try to learn. And what am I going to do? My purpose, my goal is for them to learn English. So thank you.
For my partner's videos, I understood the direct method and the grammar translation method. That the direct method, the teachers are more focused on the students, they are more active, they help them participate, they want the students' participation. And in grammar translation, teachers are more focused on the rules, like they teach a specific way for them, like they go by rules, like they're not very active with the students. They just like tell them what to do and like let them do what they are told. And the other method, teachers are like more wanting the students to participate and like they help them and stuff like that.